Hey Joel, welcome to the show. Welcome to, boy, I would say what day it is, but I have no idea because I live my life and people say, "How was your weekend?" And I say, "It was a weekend." I don't know. I live a life of passion, and as do you. I'm so excited to share your journey here with the listeners today. How does it feel to be Joel today?
Oh, it feels good, Brett. I'm glad you and I are finally getting together after a couple times when we weren't able to, connect on appointments. But this is going to be good because I realized that like my book is very much in tune with what you have told me is your audience.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So for the listeners out there today, we're going to touch on it a lot. But first of all, let's learn a little bit more about Joel. You've been investing in real estate
mhm.
since the late '70s. What drew you to real estate in the first place?
Well, that's a story I'd be happy to tell you because it's a very distinct thing. There were two actually very distinct things that happened in junior high that set me down the paths of my life. And number one was some investor built four-unit apartment buildings on the edge of our subdivision. And I got all those tenants on my paper route. And it was kind of different because we all lived with our parents in single family homes that they owned, and this whole rental thing was a little different. And, they built them at the edge of the subdivision where the vacant lots were available, and it was different, So I have a distinct memory, actually, in about eighth grade, of doing the math on what it's like to own rental properties. Whatever rudimentary understanding I could have at the time, as far as just knowing that those people didn't own those places, they paid money to live there, and somebody made a profit off of that. The other thing that happened was an older kid in the neighborhood built a pirate radio station in his basement. Pirate is an unlicensed, illegal radio station. It was an FM station, and he had the flagpole was the antenna in the backyard, and I got to hang out there. And that's when I decided I wanted to be a disc jockey. And so I actually did work in radio in high school. Went to college to where they had a good radio club there, and studied accounting. Just built the rental property and the mobile DJ business simultaneously. I did 35 years as a mobile DJ, 5,051 appearances before retiring in 2011. And that's part of the premise of my book, which is called Build Real Estate Wealth, Enjoy the Journey of Rental Property Investment, which is that real estate doesn't have to be an either or thing. You can choose to just add real estate on to whatever it is that you want to hold on to. Like I wanted to be an entertainer. I didn't want to give that up. And people have professions or jobs or hobbies that they don't want to let go of, and they also want to build income and build retirement. So that's why rental property is a good match for that. It's kind of like the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is simply knowing the facts, and wisdom is being able to use the facts to make good decisions and do good. And with riches, that's basically having the cash, but not necessarily happiness or whatever. The wealth is when you know what to do with your cash to make good decisions and do good in your community. You could have little and feel wealthy because you are content with what you have and you're making good decisions with your material things that you do have. And you all know miserable people that have a lot of money. So uh, that's uh, that's kind of the difference. I'm known in this area because I teach a lot of landlord one-on-one classes, do seminars and masterminds and stuff like that. I'm known for saying what I'm going to tell you right now because it comes up when sometimes people ask me privately about something that they have a dilemma with, or I might be saying this in front of the group. And that is this: if I had a choice between losing all my money and losing all of my relationships, I would lose all my money in a heartbeat because my relationships will help me get my money back. And if I've got all the money and no relationships to enjoy it with, that's pretty empty. So my advice is don't make a withdrawal from a relationship just to make a deposit in your bank account.
Mm.
Every decision that you make after you think about buying property, slowly narrows the universe of the possible tenants that you would have. For example, your location, are you buying around the world, or are you buying, on the other side of town? I mean, obviously that just eliminated a whole lot of people. And the type of property it is, the condition that the property is in, of course, the neighborhood, and how you prepare the property for showing it to somebody. All those things are gradually narrowing down who will rent this. And then you finally come into direct contact with a potential tenant through your tenant selection process, which the last part of which would include whatever advertising or outreach you are doing to get the possible universe of people to call you in the first place. But then once, let's say it's a case where you advertise to get people to call you so you can talk to them and decide whether you want to show them the apartment. Let's say that that's the process. It's pretty far down the line where you first come in direct contact with a live person. And that is where I would say tenant screening starts, because that would be the point at which you would be able to ask them specific questions as to whether you would want to have them as tenants in your property. So I always point out that your success or happiness in the rental property business is directly hinging on your ability to select the tenants, whether it's you or you're selecting a property manager and they are selecting the tenants. There's got to be some criteria there that are met, and some skill in determining whether the people you're evaluating are actually meeting your criteria or hiding something from you or whatever. And so I always point that out, that's the biggest skill you need to learn. You could be good at finding property, financing property, fixing property, maintaining property, whatever. You can be good at all that, taking care of your back office. If you're not good, or you don't have somebody hired that's good at selecting the actual people that are going to use that property, occupy something that's worth tens of thousands, maybe even millions of dollars for an extended period of time without your direct supervision, if you don't get that down, you're not going to have a good time, in this business. It's mainly built on relationships and my knowledge of the assets that the property that they want to borrow against. I'm not lending money. In my case, I don't lend money that is secured by any sort of property that I wouldn't know what to do with if I by chance had to get it back in foreclosure. And so consequently, really, the other investors are not approaching me to lend them money on any sort of a project that I hadn't tackled in a similar manner, in my own investing. And I'm investing or lending on one of two situations. Either an investor is borrowing the money to buy and or rehab a single family home that they're going to sell to a third party, in which case we get paid off whenever they sell the house, and that's called flip. Or lending money to buy and or rehab a keeper rental property that they need to stabilize, either by doing a rehab perhaps, or raising the rents, getting different tenants in there, to get it to the point where a bank would be interested in giving them long-term permanent financing, in which case we get paid off at the time of the closing for the refi. So that's the beauty of it all, is the lack of an underwriting process that you would experience with a bank that might look at the deal for a couple of months and then say, you know what, we actually can't do this deal with you, or we can't give you the same terms that we told you about whenever we took your application fee 2 months ago. With private money, typically, I walk the property. Somebody calls me up and we talk about it over the phone. If it's worthwhile, we walk the property inside and out, and then just I agree right on the spot or not, to make the loan, and then just go back to the office and send them an email with the loan terms that they reply they agree to. Then it is sent to the attorneys to do their thing, and we have all the documentation that you would expect for a bank, a note and mortgage, if I'm in note and mortgage state, and personal guarantee. You need to get some education, even if you are going to determine that you're going to be hiring contractors and you're going to be hiring property managers and so on, because you need to understand how the business works. And my book goes from having your mindset right to forming an entity, all through the acquisition and management of property and tenants, and getting rid of property, selling property and so on, and wraps up with philosophical things like we talked about earlier, difference between riches and wealth, and a lot of best practices for business and life in general. And that makes it a little larger than a lot of books in the genre, but I have it set up for busy people, like a lot of your listeners, that you can just read. I have a whole lot of words and sentences and paragraphs in there that are in bold type, and you can just read from bold type to bold type to bold type, skipping through the content of the book and get the whole idea of what's going on. And if you feel you want to learn more, just stop and read all the words.
Mm-hmm.